Yeah,
Oh,
you were fine here. And we're live. Welcome to the Heart to Heart Show. I am Anita Barfoot Berg, and I'm a spiritual life coach. I work with um, thought leaders who want to do what's never been done before. And my co-host is Connie Lee.
yeah. Hi, I'm Connie Lee, and I'm an online business manager for coaches as well. I am an author. I love writing. And I also really love deep conversation, deep and connected conversation. So I'm excited to be here tonight. And Chantelle, go ahead.
I'm just a wild and free world traveler that is here to inspire other people to live their authentic life.
Beautiful.
Marie.
Marie.
Man, how do I follow that? I'm coming to you from the great white north in Vermont, where it's freezing cold. My name is Marie. I'm a healer and an intuitive and a spiritual guide. And I'm here because I just love hanging out with these ladies.
Awesome.
We are an awesome bunch, aren't we? And tonight we're gonna start off talking about some authentic parenting and see where that leads us down the road here. Let's to get started. I don't even have a question for you guys. Like I think you're pretty passionate about this one.
Yeah, so Maria and I were texting one day and we were kind of talking about how we don't really follow like the norms of parenting or what society tells us. We kind of follow our own heart with parenting and the challenges that come with that, because, you know, if everybody's kind of following what everyone else is doing, then our kids are sometimes not doing what everyone else is doing. So
Right.
there's some challenges that come with following your own heart when parenting.
Following your own heart and teaching, I think for me, it's teaching my kids to follow their own heart and to be okay not fitting in, which God knows that's a hard journey, right?
Yes. And I think, I don't know. Okay, so Anita, you have a daughter and what else? A daughter and a son, right?
I have a daughter and a son. Both are in their 30s. Don't quiz me. I might get it wrong.
Okay.
Married, families of their own. Yeah. I'm a grandma.
Right. Okay. And then Chantelle has 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl. And then Marie, you have a boy and a girl?
Yep, one of each.
Okay. And I have a girl. And so what I find is that I try to teach her to follow her heart and, like, you know, really tune into how she feels about things. And what I notice that she does is she does what I think, you know, she's kind of pressured by what other kids are doing and other girls are doing. And so, you know, they exclude each other, and she gets her feelings hurt. So she does something to try to hurt them. And right. And it's like, from the mother's point of view, you don't want to see your kids hurt. And then knowing that this is kind of their path, they need to learn pain. Right. So I find that to be hard. So I was just curious as to, you know, how you deal with your girls, how you've all dealt with your girls doing that, and the differences between boys and girls.
Oh, good question. And there is. Right. Chantelle, do you agree? Huge difference between boys and girls?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is. For sure.
And probably the order that they're born in too.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that the firstborn always paves the way for the rest, whether that's positive or negative. But, and I always think that middle child, well, I have 4, so we have the middle child syndrome. And yeah, the middle child syndrome is real. Although the middle child usually gets more than the others when you have 4. But yeah, it's interesting. But my daughter, who is the 3rd child, she's the strongest of the whole bunch. So
Interesting.
yep, they're all different.
So I know for me, I learned with each one how to do it maybe better. And I think even more with my grandbabies, because I'm not so personally attached, to their everyday life. So I think it's easier for me to step back and help them to be their own little person more than I was able to help my kids be their own person. And I did. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that I'm really like that I really try to help Abby with and try to see for myself is that recognizing that she is her own person and that she has her own feelings. She has her own inner knowing, her own little guidance system. And it's not for me to like tell her what to do. Right. And I've
To
always,
some degree, I'm assuming she doesn't run around owning your place either, right? So where's
Right.
that fine line for you?
Exactly. So yeah, and it's funny because that's a topic that's kind of come up where I want to move and she doesn't want to move and she doesn't want to leave her friends behind, right? And so she's expressed that she does not want to leave her school and she does not want to leave her friends. And for me, it is about hearing that that's how she feels, right? And giving her the opportunity to voice that, as well as also recognizing that she doesn't get to it isn't just her, right? She is a member of the family, but it isn't her only, she doesn't get to run the house.
I think that's amazing, though, that you allow her input. How old is she?
She's 9.
Yeah, I think that's incredible that you're paving that way of allowing that input and helping her to think about, oh, I do have an opinion about this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that people really, that I come up against is that other parents are like, you're the parent, you're the adult, you get to say what to do. And I'm like, yeah, but she's still a member of the family. She still gets to have an opinion, right? Like she's still entitled to that. And I want her to know that her voice matters. Whether or not we follow through on what she wants is a different story, but she still gets to have a say.
I think that's incredible. How about you, Marie? You got input on this?
Well, I think that will serve her well in other areas of her life too. If she understands at home that her opinion is valuable, I think she'll probably be less afraid to speak up when she feels she needs
Right.
to. It's something, girls especially, I think, or maybe just teenagers in general. I don't know, maybe all kids. I think and maybe because they're raised by scared parents. I don't know, that they don't feel or understand that their opinion is important.
Yeah, I don't know that it's so much boy, girl as personality.
Yeah.
Right.
Some
But I think
some kids just let it rip. They don't care.
right. And I mean, like my 3-year-old grandbaby, like that girl just says what's on her mind. And I'm thinking, yeah, that might be inconvenient for her mom right now, but how will that serve her as she gets older, as she fine tunes speaking her truth? And then as I listen to you guys talk, the other thing that comes up for me is how much less unraveling does somebody like Abby have compared to somebody who's never had a say in anything or been taught how to honor or tune into what they feel? That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Good job,
Yeah.
Mom.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's the whole like being authentic to myself and what I want to be as a mom. And I mean, there are times that I am not the mom that I want to be. So I still work on a lot of things like that. But I'm pretty clear on not so much like shaping her to be the person, but more so giving her the opportunity to be her own person.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that like blossoming, like bringing out her authenticness?
I hope so.
To be continued. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this just puts me in so many deep offshoots. Like I'm considering things of the past and considering things of the future that, how could I have done it differently? Like that question, as I age, there's so many things I would have done differently. And I think we really kid ourselves when we say that. Like, it's great that we have different knowledge now, but the reality is that we did the best we could in the moment that we were in, right? So if I could give parents any bit of advice, it's like, do the best you can and don't beat the crap out of yourself when you fuck up. Just own it. Own it and make a better choice.
To your kids too,
Yeah.
Mom screwed up. That was not a good choice.
Yeah.
I was definitely that parent who operated. My kids are 18 and 22. And it's only fairly recently in my life that I have begun to try to not live from a place of fear. And so I'm like looking backwards like, oh God, what did I do to my children? But I think it's important for me to tell them now what I did, why I felt like it was the right thing to do at the time, and why I don't want to use the word regret, why I'm looking back now and saying I would have done it differently, because I want them to remember that and carry it forward to when they have children.
Well, and I think like Connie, you kind of brought this fear thing up to begin with, and Marie helped clarify it for me actually, or help me remember, was, I'm not the fear-based person that I was when I was raising my kids. I'm completely different. I don't allow fear to lead me as much as I used to. And I notice when fear is leading my thinking and my actions. But I think often as a, parent in my 20s, it was, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't go outside without your boots on, you're gonna freeze. And it's kind of like distilling, instead of, maybe just go step outside in your bare feet and see what you think of that experience. You know what I mean? Like, it's not harmful. You're right there. But maybe, and maybe that's not the right instant, but, to let them experience life and say, oh, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I think
and
that
that's hard. That's hard to watch.
Definitely. I think like helicopter parenting of us always like trying to keep our kids safe and just being around them all the time and not giving them the opportunity. Like, I was reading an article about how even when a kid climbs up really high on like the jungle gyms or whatever they're called, monkey bars, whatever you call them.
Yep.
And a parent comes over and takes them down to help them to come down. That's me, right? I don't physically want to see her hurt. But they were like, the guy was like, you're not teaching them resilience, because they need to be able to, like, they figured out how to get up. Give them the opportunity, be close by, but tell them they can do it and come back down. And
that's powerful right there, right?
Yeah.
But number one, it takes patience on the part of the parent to ride this out and to put our own fears to rest and be that positive vibration. I just think, man, our kids, the next generation, would be mind-blowing at what they could accomplish if there were more parents doing more and more of this.
I think we'll get there.
Well, obviously we are, because Connie's already doing it. So there's one.
Yeah. Parenting is, they don't come with manuals. I tell my daughter that, like, you did not come with instructions. I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm winging this.
I love your honesty.
I'm just winging this.
I was way too stubborn when I was raising my kids to acknowledge that in front of my kids. Like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Of course I do. as I buried my head in my pillow at night thinking, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I think for me, it's important for her to see my human side because, I fuck up a lot and, and I'm not doing it perfectly. I don't know what the perfection would be, but there are times that, and I'm hard on myself. So for me, it's
You
like
are.
really,
I can attest to that.
yeah. So even it isn't just me, right? It's, um, even when kids do things that hurt our feelings or whatever, it's also like, sometimes people have bad days and they say things they don't mean, but right, like, pardon? Yeah.
And like, even just owning it, like, what if we just had that real relationship with our children, no matter their age? Like, again, I look at my 3-year-old granddaughter and she is smart. Our ritual together when she's with me is I tuck her in at night and I say, what was your favorite part of the day? And we just have this conversation at the end of the day. And it's interesting how it's evolved through, the years, and what her answer is and how much bigger her imagination gets and how much more she's thinking of. Like, that's just fun. And I'm sure I didn't have the patience to do that with my own kids, right?
Right. I asked my daughter that as well. I asked her as soon as she gets off the bus what her favorite part of the day was. And she used to like to play that game. Now she's just kind of like, whatever, mom. Like, so
She's outgrown it. Oh, you're brooding hope for me, Kat.
Yeah, but it's funny. In the summer, we were on the swings together, and she was like, I'm maybe 9 right now, but I'm like 99. I've had that much experience in life, like past lives and stuff. And I'm
She
like,
said that?
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
That is crazy that, and that's from an energy perspective, that is really fun for me to see kids who are still connected. Because I'm kind of thinking that we're not supposed to remember when we come here, but it does seem like the younger kids still remember part of their previous life or part of their gifts or whatever. When I was doing ceremony often in the Indian way, one of the women that I would do it at, her 5 or 6-year-old granddaughter came out to burn sage with me, and she's sitting by my altar, and I was in awe because she knew exactly what to do and she'd never did it before. And it's like, there's just something really humbling when you see the innocence and the wisdom blended in the same moment for me.
right. That's what I mean, though. I think I've always treated my daughter like I know that she already knows stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not thinking like, I had to teach her how to walk and I had to teach her how to use the toilet and stuff like that. But I feel like she already knows. And so I don't need to, like, I give her that's why it's important for me to give her that voice, so that, because I think she already, if I can like keep her connected, help to keep her connected instead of being like, you don't know anything, I'm the adult, you're the child, right?
I think that's amazing though, Connie. I mean, that right there speaks volumes that you're looking at her. And I'm assuming if you're looking at her, that you're also looking at other people in that same, well, you know what to do. And it's, for me, that's what coaching is. It's helping people access what they already know that maybe they've forgotten. But again, like that just right there, that to me is what life is about. It's seeing the brilliance in each other. It's seeing the greatness.
It's so funny. Chantelle is the one that introduced me to um, my natal, like my birth chart. And I had a reading done, and she was saying that she was like, one of my gifts is that I can see the bigger picture of what people need to do. But it's not my job to tell them how to get there. It's my job to help guide them to find their own way to get there. And I think so. I mean, on one hand, what you're saying is that it's amazing for me to be able to do that, and on the other hand, it's frustrating as hell when people take the long way to where I could have given them the shortcut. I'm just like, damn it, I
Well,
already told you.
and that right there is, I mean, it's the $1,000,000 question of when, as a coach, when as somebody who cares, whether it's my kids or an intimate relationship or a coaching relationship or just a friendship, whatever, when is it okay to help them a little more insistently? And before it was like, I didn't have the patience for it. I just blurted out like, what about this? Do you see this? And now I'm more like asking questions that help them to, because it always feels better when we do it ourselves. If we tell them too soon, they don't get it. If they're not ready to hear it, people won't
Right.
hear it, whether it's our kids or whoever, right?
Right. Chantelle, I'm curious, what is your parenting style? Like, what is your whole take on this whole thing? You had said
Being
very much
awful
so.
quiet tonight.
Yeah.
So. What's going on over there?
I've had a lot going on the last couple of weeks, and I'm a bit tired. And so, yeah, I'm not 100% myself, so to speak. I raised my kids in a general sense to think for themselves, very hands off in a lot of ways. What Connie is talking about, and it evolved over time. I think I tried to direct a lot more with my oldest, but then I tried everything under the sun to try and reach him and didn't feel successful at that. So when it came to number 2 and 3, I was very much just kind of, we did consultative parenting, and it was like, what do you think? Well, and we're very liberal people, and so we never had a lot of controls, and my kids learned from a very young age how to make decisions for themselves about their future and about where they're going, and I homeschooled them. So to me, I always think homeschooling is a really good thing, because who is their sphere of influence? Me. And of course, for me, that's very open-minded and very much, well, what do you think? It's not what I think, it's what you think. And, where do you want to go and what do you want to do? I'm just here as, a support mechanism. I don't need to mold you into something. But that didn't happen overnight. So number 1 was my failed science experiment. 3 are on it, and they have challenges just like we all do, but they're really thoughtful kids, and they, like my son, my number 2 son, called me today and he said, Mom, I just called to thank you. This was like, I don't know, 30 minutes before I called. He says, I just wanted to call and thank you for being an awesome parent.
Wow, nice.
He had his boss, which he didn't go to college. He has really bad dyslexia. He's a completely smart kid. College was not the way for him. But he's, on his way to a 6-figure salary. He's got a union job. He's doing great. He bought his first house at 22. He's had his own challenges, don't get me wrong, but one of the big bosses at his work came and said, gosh, you have such great work ethic. I thank your parents for that. And he goes, well, I just wanted to call you, Mom, and thank you for that work ethic. But I just wanted to tell you that I love you too. And so, but that's my middle child, I call him. And he's my warm and fuzzy, super empathetic, caring, loving kid. Not that the others aren't. but he's just he's his own person. And so anyway, parenting for me has been for a really long time about, I'm here to help you be what you want to be.
Mhm.
And so with the two middle ones, I've never, and of course number 4, I don't force what I want for them. And there's pros and cons to that, but honestly, homeschooling was one of the best choices, even though one of the most difficult things that I did with them, because it really taught them they don't care about what other people think. So when they went to public school as teenagers, they didn't have all those issues where they were, not that they were completely free of worry, but they couldn't relate to the dumb kids that were in school that were doing stupid stuff, because they were always taught how to think for themselves. So I'm kind of like not everybody else, because I don't send my kids to public school. So not everyone can relate to my experience, and so maybe what you guys are talking about is more relevant, because my kids were homeschooled. They were taught from a very young age to think for themselves, to consider all these things that most kids don't consider, whether it comes to budgeting and what their future looks like, and how to manage their emotions. And it doesn't mean that they're free of problems. They've all been in therapy. They've all had issues, but we do life differently, and that works. And that doesn't mean that the other way is a wrong way. It just works for us. So I'm more of a laissez-faire parent, and yeah, it's great to see them where they are, and where they're going, and they're all different. They're all incredibly different.
Did
I
they
think
all, did the other two go to post-secondary? Your daughter did, right?
So my daughter is going to school right now. She's in the Navy, and she has just finished her first year, and so she's working on her second year, and then she's going to continue on with her schooling. Who knows what that's going to look like, but she's just in her first 2 years and trying to figure out what she wants to do when she grows up. I am too. So yeah, and for me, I'm just very much, just do what makes you happy. I mean, some of the happiest times in my life is when I was the poorest, when I had nothing. And they were also some of the hardest times. And so, I don't know.
Chantelle, I think you hit on something really important for us all to remember, is that you have to find out what works for you.
Mhm.
Right? Like,
Yep.
I remember at one point thinking about homeschooling my kids, and it's probably better that I didn't, because I don't know if I was aligned, and obviously I wasn't, because I didn't do it. But now, absolutely, I would. In hindsight, I would have homeschooled to a certain point, but that's also not the right choice for everybody. Connie, the way you're doing things, maybe it's not right for everybody, but what feels authentic to you as a parent, instead of what everybody else is telling you and following that. Or for me, it's really easy. If it doesn't feel good when I think about doing something, it's not aligned with my inner being, my inner knowing, right? If it doesn't feel good, it is not my way. And just because I remember conversations with my kids when I would say, home at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and you can read for an hour and it's lights out at XYZ. And they're like, well, all my friends are staying out to midnight. And my response would be, I'm not their parent.
Yes.
Like, this is the way it rolls here. And that felt good to me. And, to this day, my kids are avid readers. And so it's just, that seemed something that was important to me to follow through with.
My daughter, I try to ensure she doesn't eat a lot of sugar, because she's a little sugarholic. So if I gave her free rein, she would go crazy with it. So I don't allow her to have pop. or like iced tea, and I don't even buy juices. So when our friends come over, she's like, what do you want to drink? We have water or milk. And it's almond milk because my mom doesn't buy cow's milk. And like they're like, well, I'd like some juice. Yeah, we don't have that. My mom will not buy that. And it's always this bone of contention for her. So yeah, so she'll say like, oh, well, you know, blah blah's mom lets her have Coke. And I'm like, yeah, well, she's not my kid. And like she hates that. Like, so, but it's how it goes. When she has her kid, she can buy all the pop she wants for them.
That's right. And what I feel, because I did also raise my kids very holistically nutrition wise, and it's so funny because I remember my nieces and nephews who had full range. They could eat whatever they wanted to. And when they came to my house, you know what they wanted most? Veggies. Because they didn't get them at home. They would just like pig out at the veggie tray. And I'm like, isn't that interesting? Where my kids might be more apt to grab the sweets or the desserts, but not really. Like for me, if I don't have that stuff, I it's like one bite. It just doesn't really resonate with the person when they don't have that taste for it.
Right. Marie.
It was kind of like that in
girlfriend.
my house too. My kids were like, yeah, my mom doesn't buy chips. Sorry, no chips here. My kids were very much shaped by their father and I divorced when they were young, 3 and 7. So we had a really rough start of it there, and we went through some very scary stuff. And even though I feel like I protected them from as much of it as I could, I have 2 very unique and extremely empathic and very old soul children. Very wise, wise beyond their years. So I feel like they kind of started out behind the 8 ball because of all of that stuff. But then I also feel like it gave them a lot of resilience and maybe life skills or experiences that some other kids didn't have. But yeah, I mean, I just did the best I could in every moment. But I largely parented them from what would my mom say? You know, and my parents were baby boomers and their parents were from the Depression era. And so, you know, I had a baby boomer work ethic. So my son had, people always comment on my son's work ethic, and because he's very unlike most 22-year-olds.
That's huge.
But I don't know. I think also at some point it becomes nature over nurture, and you do the best you can. But then they get to this point, and I think it's, you know, probably a different age for every kid where they're like saturated with the mom stuff, and they're just like ready to become who they're going to become. And what you say or do has a little less bearing than it did yesterday.
Right. I think, well, I can't say always, but I think now as my kids are older, they are more apt to come to me for advice on the big things in their lives.
Doesn't that feel so great? I love that. Like, oh, you were.
I agree.
You do think I'm smart.
Right. Yeah. So I'm curious, Connie, I know with Abby, she seems to have a very deep spiritual edge to her. I'm curious about Marie and Chantelle. Did you raise your kids with a spiritual essence, and do you see that in them now, today?
Don't everybody speak at once.
Right. Was that too hard? Do you want an easier question?
No, I don't mind answering it. I just didn't want to hog the stage.
Follow the flow.
Blah, blah, blah.
So I raised my kids maybe with very, let me rewind. I was raised Roman Catholic, and my mother gave me the choice about 8th grade. She said, now I want you to give this some thought, but if you don't want to go to catechism next year, you don't have to. I was like, okay, cool, I'm done.
Yeah.
Didn't think about it, I'm like, okay, I'm done. And so I raised my children in a more pagan household.
Oh,
But
kidding.
But I gave them, like, we talked about things and we read books and we had conversations, and they had friends that did all different things. And I always told them, I didn't baptize you. I didn't take you to church because I wanted you to feel like you could explore it for yourself. I will do any of those things with you that you want to do.
Wow, nice.
As far as carrying it forward, I think my son is not so much, but my daughter, after she went through what I would describe as, some people may know this term and some people may not, an extreme dark night of the soul. When she came out on the other side of that, then she started to recall things to me that I had been talking about and teaching her for years.
Interesting.
So I think it went in there. It just
Right.
kind of, mulled around until she was ready to talk about it and sit with it.
That's awesome. How about you, Chantelle?
My kids think I'm a spiritual woo-woo nutbag.
Perfect.
We think that too, Chantelle.
Comfortable with that? Absolutely, 100%. Number one son, probably on a spiritual level, when he's in a good place, we have a lot of similarities. Number two son is a Gemini, and so he is constantly logic, heart, logic, heart, logic, heart, and he thinks I'm a total freakazoid. Daughter is Tauran, and it's always hard to know exactly what a Taurus thinks. I raise my kids very much to find their own.
Careful, bitch. You're looking at one right here. Sorry. Did I say that out loud?
My moon is in Taurus. I love Tauruses. It's not, I'm just saying. Hi, honey. I'm married to a Sagittarius. My husband just peeked his head in. My fourth child is only 8, but my kids have always been, I always encourage them, whatever you want to do, figure out what speaks to your soul and go from there. So everybody's kind of in a little bit different place. I would say that all of the kids have a really strong sense of giving back and of empathy, even if they don't have the same spiritual thoughts that I do. I don't really care. So yeah, I feel like we're all kind of similar in that way.
How about you, Connie? You got anything more to add about your end?
No, I was going to ask Chantelle though. She's always like talking about people in their sign, like their astrological sign. And so it, yeah, like I'm just kind of curious as to, do you find it to be like pretty across the board, like Leos are Leos? And
there are certain aspects, I think, that for me, I mean, I've read a lot and studied a lot, but I'm by no means an expert. I think that in a general sense that astrology, that has imprints on who we are, because I'm a Virgo, but I'm very much not a Virgo at all. But there are things about my personality that are Virgo. So I can see, I know you're a Leo, and you are so Leo. That's not a bad thing at all. And each one of my children, I can see those things, and I can go, oh, I can see this, and I can see this. I mean, it's not all set in stone, because that's just not the way that it is. But I always read everyone's chart because it helps me have a better relationship with them.
Interesting.
Interesting.
A lot of times I can already figure out, if I go and I meet someone, I can go, oh, they're probably a this or this, and they usually are answer this. Only because I've studied it some.
I'm dying to know what you think I am.
I haven't, it's funny because the nature of our discussions have been so organized that we haven't had enough one-on-one for me to
Peg it.
assess that.
Well, I'm a lot like you in that I don't embody all of the traits of my sign. So that's why I started to smile when you said that, because I'm like, well, I'm loud and proud about my sign, but I am not the typical, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm not the typical of that sign. And I never have felt like it. So I
Right.
can relate to that.
Right. I mean, yeah, like I said, there are certain things, our sign, and it's not just your sun sign, it's your rising sign, it's your moon sign. There's so many things that go into it. Because I used to go, oh God, my moon is in Taurus. I'm so not a moon in Taurus person because I'm like this super passionate person, but Taurans are. And so you have to.
Nice cover, Chantelle. Nice.
Nice
I'm
save.
being honest. They're very deep people. And anyway.
Yeah, deep full of shit mostly. That's what I hear anyway.
No. Do you know all your other? Do you know your rising? Do you know?
No.
Let me pull your
No.
chart. I can see some Aries in you for sure.
Great. Must be a mom influence. I love it. You go ahead and play with that. We'll talk about it. It'll be fun. Speaking of Aries, Marie, are you an Aries?
I'm not telling.
Aww.
Her birthday was on Halloween. So what does that make her?
Gave it
She's
away.
a Libra.
No, I'm a Scorpio.
I was going to say, I can see some Capricorn, maybe some Scorpio. She's deep. She's kind of withdrawn. Maybe some Virgo. There's some things that kind of speak to that. Definitely not a Cancer that's, just lives by her emotions 24/7.
Yeah, I'm not that moody, broody, don't fuck with me or I'll scratch your eyes out, Scorpio. I'm just not. I'm too nice. In fact, people tell me in every facet of my life, my husband especially, you are that's mad. That's what you look like when you're mad. That's it. That's all you got.
The thing is that you have other things influencing who you are, is what it is.
I just don't do anger very well or very long. And I'm okay with that.
Right. That's awesome.
What's your rising and whatever the other one is? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
No idea. I would like to know. I have no idea.
Chantelle loves that stuff.
On it.
I love that shit. And I go,
I'm surprised that Marie doesn't know this.
I know, I'm surprised too.
Huh.
Yeah.
To be
honest, when my kids were
interested in other pieces of what makes up who I am, like my genealogy, my actual physical DNA and where it comes from. I've just spent more time on that than I have on the woo side of it, but I'm totally interested in the woo side. I love human design. I love astrology. I love numerology. I haven't gotten there yet. I want to do all the things, Anita. I just don't have the time.
Maybe that's when you're in your elder years, then you'll dive into all this stuff. You'll just keep running into people like Chantelle who bring it to you when we're ready for it. Like I too. I mean, I've always known that I'm a Taurus, but I never really dived much further into it because.
When is your birthday?
May 13th.
My daughter's is the 17th.
I was born on Mother's Day.
Nice.
Interesting, huh? Anyway, my kids, when they were young, I raised them Methodist because that's what my husband was at the time. And I guess my thought was that I wanted to give them some place to start with, and then they could decide for themselves if that was something they wanted to follow through with. And at the same time, their crazy woo mother was taking them to sweat lodge ceremonies and taking them to Reiki. And when my son was 10, they used to call him Little Buddha. I mean, you talk about a kid knowing things and being a natural born leader, and just here's this little 10-year-old like closing and fixing, and just I was like, damn. And then the parents in me was like, what is this going to be when he grows up? And then when he didn't follow, like all of a sudden he turned it off. It was like, that's me twitching over here going, well, how can I make this happen? And nope, let him go, it's his journey, let him do it the way he wants to and whatnot. But that part of it was fun for me to see the mystery and the magic and the knowing, and let him experience things. And don't tell your dad you smoked a peace pipe, and crazy shit like that.
So are your kids spiritual or religious now?
I suspect if you ask them, they would say that they're either atheist or agnostic. I think that was probably the last conversation I had. But yet at the same time, they do experience some woo in their lives. Like when I say woo, I say unexplainable things. They're both familiar with sage, and they'll, call me to say, do you have any? Because I need some to clean the house or whatever. I don't know. I think what I saw was a point of resistance to the way anything that I did or anything that they were taught in particular, just kind of I don't want to do that right now. And so I'm curious to see as they age, how they come back around to it.
And I think too, that we sometimes don't even realize, we follow our intuition our whole life, but we don't actually call it that. And we don't realize that until somebody's like, oh, your intuitive gifts or whatever it is, right? Until somebody actually points it out, you're just thinking like, oh, I've just always done that, right? Yeah. So they may be doing that and just not recognizing it as whatever it is, because it's just them.
I think what you just said is gold, because I do think all of us, again, are in the exactly right place at the right time. And when it's time for us to move, we seem to move, right? Like maybe it gets uncomfortable, but I always feel like there's a force behind me that's going now, or there's something inside of me that just is like, now is time to do this or whatever. Did you guys get that? I can feel Chantelle itching over there. Speak, woman, what's going on? Tell me what's coming up for you.
I don't know. I agree with you completely. I guess I haven't always done it, but I try to just listen. Okay, universe, what are we doing today? Ah! Sometimes it's yay. It's like, oh yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Which is very much.
Do I have a choice in this? No.
Well, I never feel like I don't have a choice, but I have a choice in how I react to it.
Right. Bingo.
So yeah.
I'm living that one big time right now, because I thought I would be going to work in flip-flops by now. And I had a little conversation with myself on the way out of the building today to my car, like snowflakes this big coming out of the sky. And everyone was, oh, snow, it's so pretty, I've never seen. And I'm like, no. Well, I'm here and I have a safe car to travel in, and life is good and it's no big deal, and it's just taking a little bit longer. And you're exactly right. It's all about how you react to it. And astrologically speaking, this is the week to really rein yourself in, I believe, about how you react to things to set the stage for 2020. Am I right about that?
Ooh, tell us more.
Well, I can't really, because I can't. I watched the Christopher Witecki. He has a subscription service called Serious Joy, but every Monday he does a video, and it's kind of modeled after the Today Show. So he does like the astrological weather and how people will be feeling Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then he talks about what's actually happening with the planets and the suns and all of the transits and the steps. And then at the end, he goes through every sign to like tell you what to expect or what to do. And it's super easy for me to understand. And I just watched it last night, and that's what stuck in my head. So that's why I had that little meeting with myself today when I left the building, like, okay, let's not get bitchy about the snow, even though I don't really think it's pretty. I think it's a pain in the ass. It is what it is, and I'm here now, and there must be a reason. So let's just get on with it.
I kind of like the feistiness in you tonight. It must be
That's
something to do with the
we're
fact that
in,
you're.
we're in Scorpio right now. She's in her element. That's why.
Oh, is that it? Oh,
It's been a really challenging week. I will, and it's not over. It's not over.
it's only just begun, Marie. I hate
I
to be
know.
the one to inform you of that. Like, it's Tuesday, honey.
I know. I know.
Chantelle, do you have more on this whole getting ourselves in alignment for 2020 thing that you want to throw in there? Connie and I are just like, yes, tell
Just
us.
go with it. Just go with it. It's a spiritual awakening for all of us. And quit saying no. Just listen to the messages.
Quit saying no, just listen to the messages.
Yep. Just listen. It's
Uh-oh.
You lost your voice, Chantelle.
Oh, there you go.
are. You're back.
That was weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
it's easier if you just go with the flow, meaning instead of feeling whatever energy is coming into your life, embrace it. It doesn't mean whatever you're experiencing right now won't be, that it's going to be woo easy. It just means that if you go with the flow, you're going to be better. I mean, all of humanity, we're in the age of Aquarius, where there's an awakening that's happening for all of us. And there's a lot going on right now. And
I think that translates to me as don't be in resistance, because resistance doesn't get us. I mean, Marie, when you talk about yours, and I'm thinking, how do you get into allowance versus being in resistance to what you want and what is? And that is a tricky dance for us all, right?
Yeah, it is, especially when you have to, you have your ego to contend with, and you have your in the moment wants to contend with versus, like you said, going with the flow.
Mm-hmm. Connie, too, you're so patient about waiting it out, aren't you?
Oh yeah, really patient.
I was gonna say, I don't know Connie really well, but patience is not a word, I think. And I say that with the greatest affection, because not patient either. I'm the worst. I am the worst.
Yeah.
I get the frosting out of the can before I finish baking the cake.
I think Connie is a get shit done kind of a person. So I don't know where the balance of patience and timing and allowing is in making, for me, there's a difference in making things happen and allowing them to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I know how to allow things to happen, because I guess I do know how, but even my mom used to always say, you always want what you want yesterday, right? And she's like, you can't always get what you want right now. And that irritates me. I am
I love your honesty.
Get shit done.
She's right.
Sorry?
It irritates you because she's right?
No, it irritates me that I can't get what I want right now.
But okay, so let me bring it around for you, because what I've noticed about that is if we get it before we're ready for it, it's not received. I don't know what the word is. Chantelle, can you help me out with this thought?
You don't really get it
there you go.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we ever get things that we're not really ready for? Because I feel like
standing right in front of us, right? And we're like, what? Where
yeah.
is it? You.
Yeah.
Over
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's the other part of it, right? Is that it may not look the way that we think it should look, right?
Yeah,
And so we
often.
spend our time being like, it's supposed to look this way and it's not looking this way. So I'm trying to make it look this way. But the answer
Well,
could literally be
okay,
right there.
so here, make it look this way according to who? Like, who's saying that? Is that your ego trying to put it into a box, or is that your heart allowing it to be? And maybe that right there is the difference. Ego makes and the heart allows.
But isn't it, for me, it's all ego though. It's all like my impatience is all ego.
Your lack of patience or your patience?
My impatience, yeah, my lack of patience. My impatience is all ego. I'm always trying to make things work.
I think for me, even if it's heart-centered and it's exciting, that I tend to jump into my ego and make it happen instead of allowing it to happen. Like, yeah, but let me see the end result, you know? So it starts out heart-based for me, but then my head really can kind of muck things up a bit, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So we are 5 minutes to the hours, ladies. 5 minutes to the hour. Are there any parting thoughts of wisdom?
I wanted to go back to what Chantelle had said earlier, where she said that she was the happiest when she was the poorest. And I think that's a huge topic for me, but for a lot of people to hear as to how that could be.
So you want me to explain that?
Yeah.
Well, essentially, I had the most important things in my life at their strongest point when I had nothing, like literally nothing, like lost everything, like nothing, like I didn't have anything. I had my children. I had my husband who's completely devoted to me. He spends 99.999% of his time being nice to me and just supporting me. And we didn't have to worry about, I mean, what did we do for fun? We did jigsaw puzzles. We didn't worry about, oh, let's go do this fancy schmancy thing and spend this money on this. We did stupid things. Stupid things, though. They're not stupid. They're the ones that created the memories. They were camping at $10 campsites. This is before we were full time. And we were at that time collecting coupons and trying to get, as much food as we could as cheaply as possible. And we just didn't care. Everything was such an essential that, even when we have tough times now, we go, at the end of the day, if we lose everything, we still have each other. Period.
But how did you get to that? Because I think it's important topic to talk about.
I decided that when you have your life ripped away from you 1000% more than one time because you're too stupid to listen to the universe, or you're not ready to listen to the lesson, it is that moment of whatever that point is for whoever it is, that you're completely vulnerable and you have no answers at all to the next thing. And you're not thinking about, where's my kid going to go, to school, or can I afford for my kid to do this expensive program or this or that? And you're just thinking about the essentials in life, because all this shit about being successful and about having all this money doesn't matter. What matters is I always think of my life as, my life is not about what I do for myself. My life is about what I can do for others, period. End of discussion. So that when I'm gone, whether that's tomorrow or 50 years from now, I want people to remember me for who I am, not what I've done for them. Meaning, not that I gave them $50, not that I enabled them to do all these really fun things, that I taught my children in particular the importance of giving to humanity and to being a good person, that my kids can be piss poor and work at frickin' 7-Eleven. And if they're happy and they're doing what they can to make this world a better place, that's way more than if my second son, who thinks financial stuff is so important that he's a millionaire. I could give a shit. It's who you are here, right here.
I think, Chantelle, what that feels like to me is that not having all the excess, all the fluff, helps us to live in the present moment.
Yep.
Right? We're not in the future, we're not in the past, we're in the moment, because that's all we, I mean, sometimes it's survival, but when you're in the moment, I mean, sorry guys, that's all we all got. That's it. Anybody else got a parting wisdom?
I just want to add on to that. I think that's how I would describe my son. He's the kid who will buy coffee for the veterans standing in front of him in line. He doesn't make a ton of money. He doesn't love his job, but he's surviving on his own. He doesn't ask he does it on his own.
Yeah.
And he, if somebody said, "Hey man, I need a shirt. Can I have your shirt?" He would give them his shirt, even if it's the last shirt that he's got. And to me, and I don't mean to discount, kids who have education or these crazy skills that are going to change the world or whatever, because I think we need all of that. But I personally am super proud of the fact that my son can take care of himself. And I always say, if I did 10 million things wrong raising my kids, I did one thing right, because my 22-year-old is living on his own and can survive on his own. I feel like that's a pretty good accomplishment. So,
but you know what I hear in that, Michelle and Chantelle, is that your kids have
Michelle.
heart.
Who's Michelle?
Sorry, Chantelle Marie.
Blended it together.
Right, I did. For me, it's teaching my kids to have heart. It's teaching my kids to open the door for somebody, to notice somebody, to just be there, like you said, to buy the cup of coffee, to whatever. And I think that right there is gold in us assisting the raising of consciousness and assisting the next generation to function from what matters. Like for me, it's all about the heart. It's all about the feeling. It's all about the following, the intuition, following the knowing. So it's good stuff. Connie?
No, I don't have anything to add.
You got nothing?
Nothing.
Well, this was amazing, ladies. Thank you, Chantelle and Marie, for joining us once again and for jamming with us. We love these conversations. And we will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.